Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. It's nice and sunny and hot out there. Thank you for taking the time to join us again for our regular Facilities Repurposing Advisory Committee meeting. Those of you that haven't had a chance to take a look at the agenda, we do have all this information posted in our district website. We do have the presentations, previous meetings, all of that is available to you in our district website. So I want to call this meeting to order, and I will start by doing a roll call. I will start with Brandy Salcido. I'll come back. Araceli Ortiz. Araceli, I thought I saw you there.
Here.
Thank you. Alberto Torres.
Hello, yes, I'm here. Could you make me a co-host by chance?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jocelyn Merce.
Here.
Brenda Sendejas. We'll come back. Edgar Gudiel.
Present.
Thank you. Maria Martinez.
Here.
Ray Turner.
Present.
And Natalie Abal.
Present.
Okay. And I will come back to Ms. Brandy. I just saw your name pop up. Brandy Salcido. We're doing roll call. Thank you for that. And I believe I'm going to do one more time, Ms. Brenda Sendejas. Okay. All right. So that establishes quorum. Only one absence, Ms. Brenda Sendejas. Next, just wanted to inform the public.
Hey, Renee, before you take off, I can see Brenda, but yeah, she's waving right now. She's here. She's just not, for whatever reason, she's not able to unmute.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you there, Brenda. I did not see you there. Okay. Public comment. If a speaker wishes to address the committee on an item on the agenda, time will be provided for public comment before or during consideration of that item. Public comment shall be limited to 2 minutes per person, unless we have too many individuals commenting on the same item. We may reduce that to 1 minute. Next item, number 4, review and approve the order of the agenda. And all I will ask from you, from the group, is to give me
So.
there you go. If you guys are okay, members, with the agenda and the format. If not, raise your hand or please comment. If not, give me a thumbs up from the group. You have anything that you'd like to add or change, please let me know. Okay, not hearing any. We'll move on to the next item. Approval of minutes for March 11th. I will give you, we have sent you those minutes. Please take one last look at those minutes. I'll give you a couple of minutes and then I will come and ask for a recommendation to approve.
Renee, do you know when those minutes were sent?
Yes, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday. Let me, Patricia, if you could bring those back up, if you could resend them.
Okay, they were sent at the same time with the responses and the,
Oh, okay. Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Let me know if you need more time. If not, if I can get a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay. Anything that anybody would like to add or suggest regarding the minutes? Anything, any changes that you see in there? Okay. Not seeing that, I will ask for a vote. Brandy Salcido,
Yes.
Araceli Ortiz, Araceli, Alberto Torres,
Yes.
Jocelyn Merce,
Yes.
Brenda Sendejas,
Yes.
Edgar Gudiel,
Yes.
Maria Martinez,
Yes.
Ray Turner,
Yes.
and Natalie Ball.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay, so moving on to our next item on the agenda. So just to share with you, and this will be part of the presentation. The comments, I believe we have those in the presentation. Mr. Hand?
Yes, that's correct. We kind of did a synopsis of the comments that were received during the forum. And then we had a limited number of comments that came to us afterwards at the district website. And so what you see there is an actual direct recitation on the comments that were received at the district's website.
Yeah, so we
The
shared with you, we shared with everybody those comments that were received directly through the Google form. And we also do have a summary of that in the presentation. I don't know if we want to bring that up at this moment for discussion. This is just an informational item. Anything that you'd like to comment regarding what was stated that day, we'll open it up for just a brief discussion regarding those comments. Anybody from the group? I don't see, oh, here we go. Mr. Turner, go ahead.
Thank you. There were several comments about closing Lindale because of the special programs there for autistic children and a few other reasons. And so I looked into, instead of moving the Lindale students to Curtin, the reverse. And it looked like from a numbers financial point of view, it's about the same no matter which way you move them. So if there's special programs at Lindale or special physical facilities that are needed for certain programs, the reverse, moving from Curtin to Lindale could work as well.
Thank you for that. Anybody else from the committee would like to comment regarding the community forum?
Sorry, I couldn't find my hand. Brenda.
Brenda, go ahead.
I just want to say that the community forum was it was good. I got to hear a lot of the community input, and I think that was something we all wanted to get. And we also got a little bit of knowledge on a lot of the schools and the programs and who they serve. I do want to ask for it to be translated in Spanish, the forms and everything, and Vietnamese when we put them on the RUSD website, because there are parents who have called me that they cannot access them because of the language barrier. They don't understand. I know that we have translators when we have these forums, but for those that can't make it and have to go back, do we have that? I know we posted recently, right, the Spanish and the English, but we don't have a Vietnamese. We do have Vietnamese parents as well. And just also, just when we send each other, we do have community members that do require translation and do require translation of all documents that we send through email, so they can also be better prepared for these committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else from the committee? Okay. All right, thank you for that. And then I will turn it over to Mr. Art Hand. And this is item number 7, update facility information, repurposing considerations, information discussion. So Mr. Hand, if you could share your screen.
Thanks, Renee. Working on that right now. And good evening, everybody. Glad to see everyone's bright, shiny faces here on our regular Thursday night shindig. Come on, come up. Oh, there we go. Took a second. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
So let me get back to title square one. Okay, so this is our brief presentation for tonight. You guys have seen just about all of it except for this slide. This is again, as we talked just about just a second ago, this is the slide that gives us an overview here on the left column of the comments that were made during the forum. And as Race mentioned, had a lot of folks speaking with some great passion about the Lindale program and the issues there surrounding its potential for inclusion. Had also had folks, as you guys have done during your meetings, talking about the budget shortfall and wondering if there were other alternative methods that might be accessed to address that in the short and long term. One new suggestion that hadn't been previously mentioned as a part of our discussions, at least not as I recall, was a possible move of the Adelante program over to Ocala due to Adelante being an overcrowded facility. If we go back here soon, we take a look at our charts that talk about number of students at each site. We see that Adelante is one site that has a high student enrollment. There were a couple of different speakers that talked specifically about racial equity as a part of the impact of the school closures. And that certainly is something that is an important piece of the criteria that needs to be considered. I think it's an interesting dialogue considering the demographic makeup of the district, but something certainly that needs to have some consideration going forward. And then in relationship to that, also what was expressed to us as the trickle-down effect, where students that might leave the system right now or might, be moved from one school to another might leave the system. And if they leave, if they have younger siblings, then there would probably be some kind of a quid pro quo that would mean those siblings wouldn't come to Alum Rock, which could be even more detrimental or contribute to the detriment of the district in relationship to ongoing enrollment reduction. And coming back again to the budget shortfall and options and opportunities there, a couple different folks mentioned that they felt that the district was not considering all the other options that might be available to cover the shortfall. And then lastly, there was a specific concern mentioned about schools in the Mayfair area, which I believe includes Chavez, and the negative impact that the inclusion of Chavez would have on that local community going forward. And then the actual written questions or comments that were received on the district website or on the right-hand column. And a lot of these things are things that you guys have already. Sorry, guys, my iPad Siri decided to weigh in off my iPad sitting next to me. So a lot of the things you see here are things that you guys have already brought up and discussed at certain times during our conversations over these last couple of months. Creation of hybrid sites, combos in school and nonprofits, something that we've had quite a bit of discussion on, and I think some really good discussion on. There was a questioning of the enrollment projection sources. Were the numbers garnered through information gained by or provided by the local sites, or were they was that information garnered from the collection of data that goes on a global basis by the district? One comment was that school performance rankings should be taken into consideration. Renaissance programs are important, and again, something that this committee has always focused on. And then coming back to Ray's comment from just a minute ago, there was a specific question about why Lindale was being considered but not Curitan. And as we know, and as we have talked about, all sites are being considered. The only thing that I think that may have brought this question forward is because we haven't listed Curitan specifically as a site that had been discussed as a part of your meetings over these last couple months. Again, talking about Lindale being a walking school and the impact that would have on families trying to move to other facilities. Again, something that's been mentioned on more than one occasion by this committee. And then one more time, something that we've talked about, which is the potential for a charter draw again after schools might be targeted, and how would we stop that from happening? Small school concepts work, and certainly there's no argument, I think, from anyone that a smaller school environment can be a healthier school environment. And unfortunately, though, sometimes when it comes down to the dollars and cents, small school environments can be difficult to manage. And then finally, budget deficits were years in the making. And once more, what are the cost-saving steps have been tried? So that was our recap of both the forum and the information that was received on the district website after the forum. So moving forward through the presentation, again, guys, these are things that you've seen before, and we brought them back because we want to be able to have this information available tonight, always at the drop of a hat, if you will, so that as you have questions or concerns, you have this right there in front of you that you can grab and refer to. So the first slide, of course, is our charter traditional school locations. The next slide are 2020, 21 student school sites, student versus school sites locations map. The king of all slides here and all presentation slides for what we've been doing, which is our bar graph showing the steep decline in enrollment from that period between 2011 and projected into 2026-27. Our basic facility utilization 6-year overview, which talks about classrooms, capacities, current enrollments, projected enrollments, and the percentage of utilization in each of those respective scenarios. Maintenance costs, again, working backwards against the base data that we had put together and seen in the last slide. Admin utility costs, again, based against the data that we had seen in the previous slides. Repurposing criteria, this is what we have been calling our metric information, and again, just some of the most basic consideration points that I know you guys have been thinking about and looking at as you are mulling over what sites to make recommendations about as we go forward. Reuse options, again, one more time, I just have to say, I think that the list that you have put together here is very comprehensive, and I think it's well thought out and offers lots and lots of great opportunities for the district to be creative in whatever they do, whatever you suggest that they do, and what the board finally approves going forward for repurposing the school sites. Next step, this is just, again, stuff we've seen, but what this one does, guys, is I guess, we're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty of all this. Our current calendar identifies a preliminary report to the board on April the 15th. And certainly, as I understand it, and talking to Dr. Bauer, we might have some flexibility there. We might be able to push that out a little bit if we need to. It might be important for us to need to, considering the discussions you guys have tonight. But right now, we're looking to that April 15th date to present some kind of a draft report to the Board of Education, and then a May 13th date for the board to adopt whatever recommendations they're going to act on. So tonight is a critical night. I think that all the good work you've done so far, we need to start putting some ribbons around stuff, putting our arms around things to continue down that metaphoric road, and see if we can begin to really have focus on some sites that you believe would be not a good word, not the best word I could have used, but would be appropriate to bring forward to the board. And then once we know those sites, then we can kind of drill down and start to take a look at that possible reuse options, and begin to say what might be the best fit for this site if it were chosen to be part of the repurposing program. And then lastly, again, our calendar, I just talked about that a minute ago. We have our community forum here. We will probably want to do one more community forum somewhere in this time period between April 15th and May 13th. I think it would be important, once you folks have been able to come up with your preliminary recommendations that you feel best about, I do believe it would be important for us to be able to go back to the community and say, okay, we listened to you the first time. We really appreciated all that you gave us in terms of input and feedback. We took that and we've come up with these ideas, and we wanted to share those with you and get that same input and feedback from you now that we have a more specific idea of what may be in store in the future. And so with that kind of wraps up what we have tonight for this presentation. Again, nothing really new here, save for the idea that the time really is now to start putting together some very focused ideas on where you guys might want to go with things if we're going to be able to stay within the board's prescribed timelines for this action. Okay, so with that, Renee, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. At this moment, as part of this, in terms of recommendations, I'm going to ask Mr. Gudiel if he could share, if he could verbally share his recommendation or his proposal to the group. I know that we did send that out to everyone, but I just want to make it public. So, Mr. Gudiel, if you don't mind reading your suggestions or your ideas.
Yes, not a problem. So what I'll do is just read off directly from the email that was sent out earlier today. I strongly feel that in order to retain the most students already living within our district borders, we must consider the sites that physically lie deeper within our perimeter boundaries. Closing sites along our perimeter boundaries could possibly leave us vulnerable to losing these students to the neighboring school districts. And I'll elaborate a little bit more on that exactly. But my suggestions were that if we, in closing Russo-McEntee, that would allow the dispersion of the students to go to Painter, McCollum, Linda Vista, San Antonio, and Lindale. Closing Cassell would send the remaining students to Aptitude Goss, Dorsa, Ryan, and Adelante 2. Closing Dorsa would divide the students between Adelante 2, Hubbard, Cassell, and Aptitude Goss. Lastly, closing Lucha would allow San Antonio to absorb those students directly to their site. Chavez would be the other option in that case. And in these suggestions, I don't necessarily suggest all of them at one time, but it could be a combination of these sites along with any other ideas that the rest of the committee may have. Again, like Ray Turner's idea that he had previously proposed of unifying the Renaissances, I think that would be a good idea as well. So obviously, you know, we're here to brainstorm and put together some of these ideas. So they could definitely be a hybrid of different suggestions. To close on that and elaborate a little bit more on what I meant by closing the sites that are on the exterior boundaries, I can use maybe McCollum as one of those sites. If we were to close McCollum, that would leave those children in that area split between us and the Berryessa School District. And the rest that lie on that those outside boundaries or the perimeters would be susceptible to moving to like San Jose Unified or any other neighboring school districts. Obviously, charters are not our only competition in this scenario. So I do think that by choosing these sites that are physically on the inside of our boundaries, we'll be able to retain the most students within the rest of our district. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gudiel. I see some hands up. Brenda?
I just have a question with one of his suggestions. He said closing Dorsa and divide them between Adelante 2 and Hubbard, Cassell, and Aptitude. But from what my understanding, Adelante 2 is dual emerge, and you cannot just send anybody. 3rd, 4th, 5th graders cannot just go into the school. They would have to test in. You would only be able to get the younger ones, which are the K through 1st, right? Or maybe just K. But I don't see how, unless I'm wrong, you can send students to Adelante if they don't meet the requirements. So we can't add that option to that one. And I don't know, I thought we were looking into solutions and repurposing, not closing schools. I think there are solutions. I've talked to people in the county and they're willing to support us if we do need help with schools, because they're looking for facilities. There's people county level, state level that are looking to fund programs, but they don't have facilities, and we have facilities. So there are answers to a lot of these problems. And I think that we have to think about repurposing right now and maybe have suggestions for later on. But I think that there are ways that we can salvage our buildings without having to close down. I just think that's harsh. I mean, we're going into, we don't know if it's the 3rd wave, right? Or whatever, what's happening with COVID-19. So we will need our facilities if we are spacing students. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Turner, and then Brandy.
Okay, wanted to go back to something that I think it was Jocelyn 2 weeks ago that suggested, rather than move any children and close whole or repurpose whole schools, to leave the children where they are and repurpose, let's say, half a school, half of several schools. And I thought about that. I sent an email to Renee asking if we could discuss that. We need a little more information about which campuses is it practical to segment a school. And I don't know, we don't have that information in front of us currently. So I can't tell how practical that matter is, but it seems like a worthwhile solution if it can be made practical at a few sites.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Brandy? And
Good
then
evening. I previously mentioned something about using Cesar Chavez for some type of adult school or additional education facility. I think it would be important to consider doing that maybe as an after, like a night school for adults or people maybe who need to take additional courses, or tech schools, and that can hopefully save that school, because if we do, as the plan suggested, overflow children to San Antonio, that's right next to Cesar Chavez. So then I think that would be focused on as well. And I think that's a good idea that should be considered, because it sticks with what Cesar Chavez stood for, and maybe that can work out also for the Mayfair neighborhood. Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Merce?
Actually, in all fairness, Renee, I know Maria Martinez has had her hand up from the beginning, so can I let her go first and then I'll go?
Perfectly fine, and I might have missed it.
Yeah, no,
There's a lot of people in there.
yeah, for some reason, my hand raised thing doesn't work in this chat ever.
Oh, okay, that's
But
what I
that's
was
okay.
looking for. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. So I just want to 100% reiterate what Brenda was saying. And again, certain schools have certain programs, and it'll be very challenging to dislocate some of these students. So just keeping that in mind with our specialty programs. One of the things I wanted to suggest was, I know we have a lot of VAPA schools, and thinking about that, if one of the facilities, I don't know which one, could repurpose where it kind of becomes like a community hub for the arts programs, kind of like the Heritage Plaza is now, where people could go on Facilitron and rent out the facilities. Go on Facilitron, rent out the facilities, and host various events. And then also our VAPA schools would be able to use that facility rent free because it's one of our schools. So I think that might be a good thought to share out there. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Ms. Merce?
Thank you. Two things. One is that I would like basically a definitive answer on, is the district looking specifically to close entire campuses? Or is the option open to repurpose parts of some campuses? Because I feel like we've brought up that idea a few times, as far as maybe using empty classrooms or empty wings, but it always, I don't know, I get the feeling, and maybe it's just me, but I do feel that we're being redirected to looking at what schools we want to close. So if you could keep that in mind. But then my second question was to Brandy, and that related to the Mayfair or Chavez School. Is, Brandy, was your suggestion again for repurposing the entire elementary school, or was it just to repurpose a portion of that site and maintain the current Chavez Elementary School there? I just wanted clarification on that as well.
Okay, I'll ask Brandy to respond to that.
Oh, thank you. I raised my hand. I didn't know how that works.
No,
Um,
perfect.
I was hoping that we would not have to close it down and we can use it for a night school so that we're dual purposing those classrooms. If that's an option, if not, then yes, possibly just doing half of the school and delegating it so that one half is trade school, night school, and the other is just an elementary school during the daytime.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I'll add a point of clarification regarding the question, Ms. Merce, regarding closing and repurposing. I think what we've tried to continue to do is present the facts in terms of facility cost, in terms of staffing and the impact of staffing. And if the school were to close, right, this is the impact that the staffing would have. I don't think we're giving you guys the direction to close schools. I think with the data that has been submitted, when you look at the trajectory of enrollment, right, one would interpret that we have this many facilities and yet the students have shrunk immensely by about 5,000 students or so in the last 6 years. So some of those things, you guys are gonna have to come to a conclusion as to what to recommend to the board, right? But it could be perceived as a need to eliminate staffing in some of these sites in order to provide some of that savings, right? But again, we're presenting you guys with the fact. You guys are gonna have to come up with a conclusion of what is the best way to mitigate this. Okay? Go ahead, Jocelyn, and then Edgar.
Thank you. So to add to that, I think that part of our, and maybe it's not our particular role, but I think what we're all looking for is some ideas long-term to attract more students rather than, just because we do have declining enrollment.
Yeah.
So I think that and again, I feel strongly that if we were to repurpose a portion of some of our sites to something that would satisfy the needs of the community, in the long run, we would ultimately be attracting students and families to our district, and it would help offset the decline of the enrollment and hopefully actually increase it. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Gudiel. And then Ms. Sendejas.
Yes, I wanted to speak on repurposing the schools and portions. So in my experience, since I work with maintenance and the facilities, I work with all of the outside entities. So First Five, Catholic Charities, Cadango, San Juan Bautista, all of the entities that do rent currently. To figure something like that out, we would most likely have to have multiple entities at the same site in order to maximize the underutilized classrooms at one site. Because in my experience, when they do MOUs to rent our facilities, they tend to rent no more than 2 rooms per entities. So like San Juan Bautista only has 2 portables. The Cadangos that we do have at the school sites only have 1 portable. Are at Adelante 2, they have 2 max. So in order to do something like that, with the utilization percentages that we're looking at, a lot of them are under that 50% utilization. So let's say that a school, for example, has 40 classrooms, 20 classrooms are not being used in that 50% utilization. We would have to find an entity or multiple entities that are to fill up those 20 classrooms. Also, what we've experienced in the past is how do we divide and keep separate those entities? So for example, at Curitan, we had Catholic Charities come in and rent 2 of the classroom spaces there. In that experience, we had to put up multiple fences. We had to put up a new pathway, new pedestrian gates. all for the purpose of dividing the entities and knowing how to channel the flow of traffic that comes with those resources. Again, I am not against that idea at all. I think that is also a good idea, but we do have to look at the reality of making that happen. And the reality is that most of these entities would not be leasing out more than 2 classrooms at a time. So in order to fully utilize the classrooms that are vacant, we would have to most likely have multiple entities at that one site and try to maybe duplicate the process at any other site that we're looking to do the same with. Thank you.
Ms. Sendejas.
I have a comment, and then I'm gonna also, I have a comment towards this. I think that Kidengo has one building, but the waiting lists are long. A lot of these Kidengo programs have a lot of parents on hold because we don't have enough space. So I do think that we can be successful if we look at the needs of the community and we repurpose according to what the need per area is. Some of the things that I know that we truly need is childcare. I believe Jocelyn said that last week, and that's something that is a no-fail because parents, this will not only help parents, but it will help a lot of parents have comment that they will have space to volunteer in schools. And so that is a really, I think, something we cannot lose with the childcare. Even at night, if we do offer our buildings at night, there is a lot of ELD programs that are needed, right? There's a lot of parents that want to learn English. And I think that these programs will be very successful in a lot of the areas, especially like Lindale, right? We have a lot of Latinos in that area and a lot of them could easily walk. I did have a couple questions. I think that instead of looking at closing, let's shift our attention to finding what the needs of the community are and finding ways to repurpose them. I think that we're all in agreement on this. Unless someone is not, I respectfully respect your opinion on this. But I think we need to shift instead of going back and forth and start now going by need per area and how can we fill up these classrooms and get the most that we can and also help our community, right? Because I was looking at the numbers from the asset calc for a lot of the schools that were on this list. And I was a little bit confused because some of the numbers they didn't match. I know that maybe I'm not reading it right, but for example, like engineer and structure, superstructure evaluation, it would say poor, and then it would have a number, but when I click it, it would have a different number. And it would be a big difference of like 1,710. So I don't understand how that works or how are we getting 2 numbers? And so I think at the end of the day, a lot of these numbers change, right? If I don't know which one we're using, the one before I click the link or the number that's given, because it's a higher number, the one that's given on the asset calculator. So the cost that I'm getting is different from where I click in to see more of the detail. So I do want more explanation on that. And a lot of the schools that were looked in, like Lindale, we have a lot of classified workers there. And we have to think about these things as well, right? These are our part-time employees that have been here for many, many, many years and actually live in this area. A lot of them live locally, and that's why they choose to work in these schools because they're close to home. So when we think about all these things, think about how many classified we're also going to be leaving, displacing, right, from their location if they do walk or if they do drive. So I just want to suggest let's shift our whole mindset to repurpose and the need per community.
Ms. Merce?
Thank you. And that does bring up a question and a comment that I have. The comment is adding another idea additional to the childcare, specifically childcare for our employees. I know that Campbell School District offers that at a reduced rate for their teachers, and it's been very helpful to them. But my question is our role we are not looking to make recommendations on for multi-years, correct? We are looking only in terms of this coming school year, correct? And if so, let me just add to that and then I'll hand it over to somebody else. But if that is the case, I do feel that, and again, this school year, this coming school year is not the year to create a lot of changes for our students. They've gone through enough. Our community needs some stability. And if we can do that by bringing in, you know, uses for the open spaces without closing any schools and shifting any students, I think it would benefit the district in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any more comments from the committee. I will open it up to the community for comments. Okay. I see April, it says April's iPhone. If you could, if we could unmute April. Miss April? Hello? We'll come back to you. I see Ms. De Leon. Ms. De Leon? Okay, let me try this one more time. I will, says iPhone de Adriana. So can you unmute yourself? Adriana? Hello?
Sí, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Yo soy una mamá de 4 hijos, que los 4 han ido al INDEO y ahí hay unos maestros muy buenos. Yo tengo un niño que tiene necesidades especiales para aprender y ahí me le han ayudado mucho. Y no creo que sería justo que estén tratando de cerrar INDEO. Las maestras son muy amables, tengo por años conociéndolas, como 15 años. Y yo sugiero que mejor hagan como más programas y miren qué está pasando, por qué los niños están yendo, como si hicieran lindo. Yo tengo 2 niños ahí, entonces yo los llevaría a la escuela más cercana.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Okay, I'm going back to April.
Hello.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to try to be quick in Spanish and in English. So I kind of was in and out of it. So from what I heard is that I'm hearing all these charts and these numbers and all these problems we're having that to encounter, but where's the solutions? Like, why aren't we figuring out actual solutions to keep these schools open? Especially one like Glendale with, I've said it before, the transportation, the classes, the teachers, the staff, everyone. So why are we talking about all these problems and charts that we don't understand and numbers we don't get and they don't even match at times, but we're not looking and saying what actual solutions there is? Lo que estoy diciendo en inglés es que estamos hablando de muchos problemas, pero ¿cuáles soluciones estamos hablando? ¿Por qué no estamos discutiendo eso? Porque estamos viendo párrafos y números que ni entendemos. ¿Por qué no estamos hablando de cómo solucionar esto como una comunidad? La transportación, las clases, todas las maestras, ¿por qué no estamos buscando en cómo podemos solucionar esto en vez de puro problema, problema, problema? Hay que seguir como comunidad y tenemos que ver cómo se puede mejorar esto en vez de hablar de puro problema que no entendemos, ni números, ni cosas así. So that's what my comment had to be. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. De Leon, are you able to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Flor de Leon. I am a parent, Renaissance Fisher. And I heard some of the comments that that some of the committee members made. And I was wondering where is these people coming from? Because for me, I heard you, I don't remember her name, but she was talking about San Antonio being next to Chavez. So San Antonio is not next to Chavez, and the other guy that says that he knows he works with other identities that like Calidades Católicas and others that come and rent spaces from the district. And I think, you know, if you guys are here to talk about ideas on how repurposing, I think last time you hear a lot of the community saying, we don't want schools to be closed. So I didn't hear one that says, let's close schools. And I hear some of the other comments that other of the members made of part of the just repurposing part of the schools. And what's going to happen if you close the schools? Who's going to keep those schools? The charter schools. Like one parent says, she's going to take her kid to the closest schools. And you guys, the guy that say, oh, these people can go to this school, these people, doors are closed. No, it's far away. So you guys don't understand that a lot of parents have to walk to go to the schools. So I think it's very important that you guys pay attention on your decisions, because it looks like you guys don't know the culture of the schools and how they work. So maybe if you are not willing to do this work, let other parents or other people come and take over and support you with giving you ideas. And please listen to that community. It's what I think it's time to start listening and find solutions to really start working on repurposing and bringing possible solutions that benefit our kids and students and community.
Thank you for your comments. Veronica?
Great, thank you so much, and thank you all that have been doing your homework and really looking into all schools. And I'm here again, right? We're not going to close any schools, and instead let's find innovative ways in keeping the schools open. I was a former Kidango employee, and I can tell you that yes, there is a huge wait list for Kidango for students for childcare. And so amplifying that and also bringing it to our teachers, that would be amazing. Having it to a low cost. Kidango does something similar like that to a hospital, where they have a facility that they rent on a hospital site, and they two doctors, nurses, whoever works at the hospital can get their child in for for a cheaper price. And so it is definitely something doable. It is definitely something that we need. And yes, maybe we just need to add, add more and provide also more of our TKers, right? Because that will funnel from Kidango to our school district more children, not just simply the children that are at Kidango, but they will be attracted to our school. So that is definitely a possible solution and repurposing idea. And also bringing more ideas into the county, as well as I know Ms. Sendejas was talking about it, right? There are things that are happening out there in the county that they need facilities, and how can we use our own facilities to do that? And I think another great example was the VAPA, right? Like repurposing one of our schools to make it into an arts and a cultural place where we don't no longer have to rent out of the Mexican Heritage Plaza, but we have our own place, and people can actually come and rent from the district, right? And make some revenue out of there. Again, I am against closing any kind of schools this year, next year, any year. I prefer to have small schools, and together I think we can find possible solutions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Moeller?
Yes, hi. My name is Kristen Muller, and I'm a teacher at Lindale School. First of all, I'd like to take a minute to thank your team for taking into consideration and implementing some of my concerns regarding the dissemination of information to our community, including reorganizing the information on the ARUSD website regarding the calendar of events, providing the repurposing presentation slide deck in Spanish, and additionally, making this meeting a standard format versus a town hall style with no need to sign in with an email address. I want to thank you for that. At the last meeting, I gave my thoughts on the thought of closing Lindale. That'd be a no-go. Now, I'm going to take off my Lindale Elementary School hat and speak as a teacher representing every school in our district. The enrollment has been declining for years. Maybe we should have worked on some mitigating factors over the past years, not within a 4-month time span. We know that the cost of living here is extremely high, and this is a problem, and it's going to continue to be. Please consider. I'd like to point out the fact that once, if we do let one of our properties go, the amount of it coming back to Alum Rock is probably a 0% chance. Please consider. I understand that at the end of the day, the truth is, taking the emotion out of this all, it's about finances, and I understand that. How about profit options? Let's rent to the county. They have funds for programs. We need money. Who can afford to rent our space? How about a scenario with a private program, something like an evening scenario, a privately run trade school? Let's think about our for-profit scenarios. I think a lot of us are very realistic in the fact that this has got to be a go. I know that I'm sitting at a school with empty facilities. How can we make this a go? And I think that having this all come down to a 4-month span feels very rushed. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sarah Kratovics.
Thank you. So I have a question actually. When I looked at the slides from the last presentation, because the slides, there aren't any new slides up for this week's meeting. It looks like the projected enrollment numbers are still kind of based on the district's projected enrollment numbers. And I feel really strongly that if we're looking at closing sites, which is not something I'm advocating that we're doing, and I agree with what several of the other members of the community have said here. But I think if we come down to looking at that, it would be really beneficial to have enrollment projections that are based off of each individual school's past enrollment for the past 3 to 5 years for that one school. And it doesn't look like the numbers match up. It doesn't look like this agency we're contracting with to help us through this process has actually provided us with accurate information. And it really concerns me that we're paying this company to help us through this process and they're not giving us the accurate data that we need to make these decisions. So I have really big concerns about that. Are we going to be able to get that information?
Thank you for your comments. Erica Castellanos. Erica.
Sí, buenas tardes a todos. Yo soy la madre de un niño de 7 años y yo creo que no deberían de cerrar, no se me hace justo que cierren la escuela Lindeon ni ninguna otra escuela. Lo que yo creo que se deberían ustedes enfocar es qué es lo que está pasando, en qué es lo que ustedes están fallando y buscar soluciones. Porque ¿qué van a seguir haciendo cada año? Cada vez que esté pasando eso, que esté reduciendo estudiantes, ¿van a seguir cerrando y cerrando y cerrando escuelas? Yo les voy a poner un ejemplo. Mi hijo estaba yendo, cuando él empezó a ir a preescolar, él empezó a ir a la escuela a la ruso. Mi hijo, él es un niño especial. En ese entonces yo no lo sabía que él era niño especial. Él tiene autismo. Y lo que estaba pasando ahí es que mi hijo, cuando empezó a ir a la escuela, empezó a tener un comportamiento que no era el indicado. Y lo único que hacía la maestra era castigarlo y castigarlo y castigarlo. Pero nunca se enfocó en investigar qué era lo que estaba pasando con el niño en lugar de castigarlo o buscar solución. Lo que yo hice fue que lo tuve que cambiar a otra escuela. En la escuela que yo lo cambié fue en la Lindell. Ahí nos dieron la bienvenida, nos abrieron las puertas de la escuela. La directora fue muy buena directora. Los maestros son los mejores maestros y ahí fue donde ellos supieron qué era lo que estaba pasando con mi hijo. Digo, si a eso vamos, ¿por qué no mejor se ponen a enfocar qué es lo que están haciendo los maestros o qué es lo que están haciendo, en qué están fallando? Gracias.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. McDonald.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be part of this process of problem solving. And I really appreciate what Brenda said about repurposing and looking at the communities. I'm a teacher at Lindell, but I don't have as much experience with this sort of thing, but I do have experience in that I used to be a teacher of ESL adult classes in the Campbell Adult Education, and they offered night classes, they offered daytime classes at different locations. I think those are all funds that are state funded. And there's what Kristen Moeller said about the renting out space, that could be a thing for all of the schools. So thank you for considering really looking into that, if you would. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you for your comments. So with that, we will move to item number 8. And this is a review draft report format, right? And again, this is just a sample of what a report could be to the board. This is by no means a sample that you guys have completely created. This is just to give you an idea, right, with some of the concepts that we've discussed. And this is going to be driven by the group. You guys are going to be able to construct that recommendation, whether it's these schools repurposing them, how with certain suggestions for repurposing. Maybe it's more than one idea, right, that would be coming to the board. But for the purposes of the work that we're engaged in, we wanted to take the time to share with you what a sample report to the board would look like. Mr. Art Hand, if you don't mind sharing your screen, if you have that sample that you could share with the group at this time.
Not a problem, Renee. Hold on one second, I'll bring it up.
Thank you.
Maybe. Here we go. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so this is what we have. As Renee said, this is a draft report format that was put together by council. It meets all of the criteria required under Education Code and reporting to the board from what this is called a 7-11 committee. We pushed this out there, so I hope you've all had a chance to, excuse me, I hope you all had a chance to take a look at it and give it a quick review. As Renee said, it's pretty self-explanatory. We start out with just a backdrop on the committee, what its tasks are, how it was made up, who the people are in terms of categories of folks that are a part of what we're doing here over these last 3 months. And then we move on to the review process. And here we're just going to finish up as we move forward. We'll continue to add dates into this table of committee meetings. And we're also talking here about some of the informational opportunities that we've had presented, the things that you guys have seen at each of the meetings in our presentations. And noting that all of the materials are available on the district website, which is really important, as you guys know. Here in section 3, need to explain again that the schools that are listed here are schools that have been mentioned as a part of our discussion. Some of them, as an example, San Antonio, not necessarily in regards to a potential site for repurposing action, but for but as an area or a site or a campus that could be impacted by other actions, other repurposing actions, or be a part of scenarios that would come forward with repurposing of other school sites. So this list is not by any means all inclusive. Again, these are just schools that, as we've gone back through our notes over our last meetings, that had been discussed in some way, shape, or form as a part of this process. Again, coming back to one of the slides that we've talked about so many times, this is a list of some of the repurposing options that the committee has brought forward for review and consideration. And then we get to section 4, and then we start talking about recommendation-specific issues. Here in subsection A, this is where, as the committee would bring actual sites forward, this is where we would list those sites, the ones that you guys would say, this is what we believe we should, or here's the sites we believe we should look at. Excuse me, not limited to 2, could be as many or as few as you want to do. Again, these are just placeholders, so you can get an understanding and an idea of what we'll be looking to do here. Section B, priority use of surplus space and real property. This really comes back now to the repurposing ideas that you've been talking about tonight. And this is where, again, not limited to 4, be as many different things that you think would be appropriate and important to include here. So if you wanted to say, talk about preschool activity, and if you wanted to say county programs, other outside agency collaborations, whatever you felt was important to list here is what we would see listed here. This one's an interesting one, limits of tolerance. And so what this means in a very simple way is these are the things you're going to say, you know what, under really, from our perspective as a committee, under no circumstances would these alternate uses be considered, or should they be considered by the board. So this is a list of things that you would say, we'd never want to see this happen at one of our sites. We really haven't talked about that yet, but as we go through the completion of the form and finish out building our recommendations to the board, I'd like you guys to start thinking about the things you'd say, oh, no way, you know, that's something we would never want to see at one of our school sites. And then now back again to recommendations, the final recommendations. And here is where we take all the information that we've gathered and talked about up to this point in the report. And this is where we put it out and we say, okay, these are the things that we think need to happen, and whatever those would be. And again, we note 4 here, could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 10. Once more, it really depends on what the committee decides they want to bring to the school board for their consideration. And then after we get done with that, of course, we've got signatures by our co-chairs, and then we push this thing forward to the Board of Education for consideration. So that's the overview on that. Certainly open to and appreciate any questions that people might have going forward on this one.
Questions and or comments from the committee? Ms. Merce?
Okay, so my question is, this one report is on behalf of the entire committee. Is that correct? We're not each doing our own?
Correct.
And so what happens, and I'm just going to go there, if we do not agree?
First, we don't have to have just one single idea or concept, right? So within the report, it could be more than one idea or concept, right? So even though some people may opt to present this one idea, there may be support for a second and possibly, I don't know, a third idea, right? So it doesn't have to be one single thing from everybody. But
No,
here,
however, I guess what my question is the way that it will be submitted, I would assume that when the board sees it, they're going to see a report that looks like this, and then they're going to see maybe a 1, 2, 3, and they're going to think number 1 is, this is the first idea, whereas it could be, or maybe this is the idea with the most support, where that might not be the case. It might be that number 1 and number 2 are in direct conflict.
Mhm.
Then what?
Renee, am I on, guys?
Go ahead.
I can't see myself. I don't know if I'm still on.
You're there.
Okay, so Jocelyn, my recommendation I scroll back down to subsection D here. My recommendation here would be to not, unless the committee absolutely, as you said, agrees that these are the things we want to do, and everybody agrees that whether it's unanimous or majority rule, however you would want to propose it, you don't have to number these. You know, they can be bullet points, and you can talk about them as bullet points, and we can amend the form to explain to the board how you arrived at the decisions and how the decisions that are listed here are supported.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of opportunity. Again, what we have in front of you tonight, this is the basic format. There are a lot of placeholders. We just wanted to give you an idea of what we'll be looking to submit to the board in some way, shape, or form. But we have flexibility in most of these areas, actually in all of these areas, because at the end of the day, what we want to say to the board is what you want to say to the board. You know, they may not agree with you. They may take a look at what you've said and they're like, well, you know what? We don't like this bullet point. We don't like this bullet point, or we don't think this is going to get us where we want to go. Or they may say, you know what? We like this one, and we're going to act on those. But again, you can present it in the way that you want to. And if it's important, and I understand why it would be, for you to push things forward if there's not unanimous agreement on how to proceed, with that in mind and with that caveat noted on the report, that certainly is available to us.
And as I hear the committee share ideas, right? I mean, as I try to visualize what this could look like, it could be a list of, here's A, B, and C considerations for repurposing, and a list of all the different possibilities and suggestions that you guys have commented on that would be viable options for repurposing, right? And with language that would strictly or explicitly explain that these are in no order of support or importance, right? These are just the 2 or 3 concept, and if it's just one, then it's just one, right? I'm trying to visualize what that could look like, that outline could look like. Brenda, Ms. Sendejas?
Yeah, so this isn't final. This is a draft, meaning we can change the structure of this letter if we want to suggest something for it to be in this. So something that I saw was, for example, it says, based on its review, the advisory committee considers the following school sites for initial considered for repurposing. Can we put partial repurposing? Since we might not even repurpose a whole school, we might just do partial repurposing to save our schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brenda, my recommendation on that, Brenda, would be, I think we want to leave the language that's here, because again, this is language that's developed by council that really aligns with the ed code requirements of what we're trying to accomplish here. But then when we get down into the narrative where you guys are actually explaining what it is that you want to do and propose to the board, I think that's where we say, okay, let's clarify a little bit. This is what we're actually proposing here. When we talk about repurposing, we're really talking about it in this way going forward. So I think that's really how to best attack that. Make sure we get in there what you want to have in there, but let's leave the basic language the same so we make sure that we've met all the requirements as defined by ed code.
I understand that, but this is a draft, so I do want to add the language or partial. I think that it's important to have it because that is something we are communicating here that we want to see. And all these schools listed here is only a draft, right? Because there are schools that I've mentioned that aren't even on this list. I've said to move all the Adelante students to one school. That's not mentioned in this list. And I've named other schools and they're not in this list. So I don't know who thought of these schools, because if you're going by what we've said, there are schools that are not in this list. And I don't understand why, and I've asked this question. I do want to include partial in there. I think it's important to have it in there, and we could take it back to council and we could ask them to look at it. I don't really see why would it be a big problem, because this is something we are discussing as a committee, that we want to see partial repurpose. So that's something I strongly want to include in there. And then I lost my point of thought on the other thing. I'll come back if I remember, but that's something that I wanted to make sure that we include.
Ms. Merce, thank you.
Again, I hear what you're saying about this form, but I am in agreement with Brenda that if I'm not confident that if we name any school as a consideration, that that's not going to be taken as, this is what we said and this is what we mean. Because I, like Brenda, have seen the list that's been on the website for the last 3 months, and they were only schools that were mentioned, not even as for consideration of closure. So if we cannot agree to put some sort of qualifying language as far as partial closure or something like that, I would be inclined to not put any school site down, or to say none. So how do we, I mean, how is that going to work? And I'm not trying to be, contrary. I'm trying to make sure that what this committee wants is what gets presented accurately to the school board.
Jocelyn, that's the most important thing of everything that we do, is that at the end of the day, whatever this form looks like going forward, that it does reflect, as you said, accurately what the recommendation of this committee is going to be to the school board. So going back to what Brenda said a minute ago, we certainly can go back to council. We can ask about amending the form. If the committee feels strongly that they'd rather see that happen, or have that happen in addition to be able to have a narrative in here that fully explains the ideas and opportunities that you guys are proposing to the board for consideration, we can check on it and see if we can make that happen in that way. So once more, the bottom line is, though, Jocelyn, you hit the nail squarely and directly on the head. Whatever we do here, and if the committee's final version of this report shows no school sites, then it shows no school sites. That's your call going forward. That's why you're here, and you guys know that. This is about you. Okay, this is about what you feel is important to say to the school board at this time with regards to this particular problem and circumstance.
Thank you for explaining that, because I have seen what's happened when there's been the information that has been placed on the district website. It has been taken by several media outlets and caused a lot of uproar and misleading information. And so we don't want that to happen. We want our views to be, again, accurate to the school board, because you guys know me, and I won't hesitate to speak my mind at that school board if it doesn't come across the way that we agree for it to. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And just to clarify, in terms of that list of schools, remember, that's not the list of schools that's going to go to the board or anything. This is just for purposes of a draft. And I know that things are taken out of context, and I know the challenges with that. And unfortunately, somehow, we have had a lot of comments regarding Lindale, and all those things oftentimes get taken out of context, and it goes in a whole different direction. But again, I want to assure you that this is just for purposes of a sample, a draft. So this list in no way, shape, or form is what's going to go to the board. So
exactly. Only thing that go to the board, guys, is what you want it to be there. And again, if it's one site or 10 sites or no sites, that is your call at the end of the day. Again, you just have to be aware that the board is going to consider this, and they'll take a look at what you've proposed, and then they will make a decision based on, you know, your input and then the things that they see going forward too.
Ms. Natalie Abel? Natalie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, a little distorted.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, let me see if that's better. Is
That's
that better?
That's better.
Okay. So I agree with what Jocelyn and Brenda are saying. You know, even looking at that list with the schools, you know, because there has been discussion of other schools, and I feel like, you know, if we do have this form amended so that we can't, because I know personally for me, I will not recommend any schools to be closed. You know, I don't think, I think we have other avenues to go forward with, but I think having that form changed, because if we present it to the board and there's a list of schools, you know, like the 9 or 10 schools, which doesn't include all of them that are mentioned, and we have an open space and we don't give a recommendation, they, you know, we don't know if they're going to then choose one of those schools, even though there's other things being discussed. So, I mean, to be honest, the way it looks right now, I'm not comfortable with that. I just wanted to express that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sendejas, you had another comment?
Yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. So, something that Jocelyn said about, is this like, as a committee, right? We're turning this in. A suggestion would be, and consider this if you guys want to do this, it would be that we each fill out the same form with our comments and we staple it with our overall. And I think that that would be helpful. And it's a transparent process when we turn it in. And if everyone's okay with filling out your own form, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be different, it's more of comments on why this choice was made. I think it will help, because anybody that has to make a decision sometimes needs a little bit of background on why these schools were done. We were going to have a lot of it there, and I hope we include it, but I think that we should all have the same document, and we fill it out and turn it in, and it would just be more transparent.
Thank you for that. Any other comments from the committee? I have one public comment, Ms. Margarita Perez. Ray, I will come back to you. Margarita?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Margarita Perez. I work in a Tinder as well. I have a question about the inscription of the students, and the data says that we have like 294 students, and I've been working for the past 5 years in that school, and we never have less than 300 students. How you guys get the data, or how you guys handle, or you guys separate the special ed from the regular kids? Is one question. And another question referring the schools that you haven't list. I've been hearing Edgar, I think he makes a comment for other schools to be considered for closing, and I don't see that. And like one of the, you guys said, when you guys presented to the board, they can choose whatever they want, and yes, please. I don't know how to resolve that, but thank you so much for letting me comment after.
Thank you. I will take these next two public comments, Veronica, Lorena, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Turner. Veronica?
Great, thank you so much. And just like the committee members have stated before, I don't think it's schools should be put as well, especially I know that San Antonio hasn't been mentioned in the past a few or couple of meetings that I've been in, and so I'm not sure, and other schools have been mentioned, so definitely putting schools there, it gives already that impression of that there might be some kind of closing. And another thing I just wanted to see, how the bonds, right? We have bonds that are going to be dispersed maybe this year or next year. And how does that play a part as well with our facilities? And would the bonds then support, I know they go more towards the facility and making our facilities be to standard, then would that even give our schools more value to rent them out, right? And in some instances, I know that, before we used to have, way before, or even another school district had, they would rent out their cafeterias for families, not all of their cafeterias, but for families to have quinceañeras, right? Is there a way also to repurpose them and provide that space, how they do it at community centers, that you rent, the space to make a party? Would that be also optional for our community to have as well? Thank you.
Lorena? Lorena?
Sí, ustedes hicieron en la primera junta, hicieron el millaje sobre la escuela de la Linder, pero jamás hicieron, y media hora de la Linder, pero jamás hicieron el millaje de los que viven del lado de la Capitol. Todos esos niños, ¿ustedes creen todos esos niños van a perder? ¿Por qué? Porque somos personas que caminamos diario a la escuela. Yo como una del comité dijo ahorita, una persona del comité, yo estoy de acuerdo porque por las noches no nos dan clases como a uno de papá en inglés ahí. ¿Por qué? Porque trabajamos en la mañana. ¿Por qué no lo usan el transcurso de la escuela en la escuela regular y en la noche? ¿Por qué no nos dan a uno de papás clases en inglés? En realidad lo necesitamos. Hay demasiada personas que no hablamos inglés. Hay demasiados departamentos alrededor. No tenemos la oportunidad de ir a la escuela en inglés, a la popular que la tenemos cerca. ¿Por qué? Porque las clases son temprano. Nosotros de trabajar venimos saliendo a las 7. ¿Se imaginan? Ni agarramos bus y todo eso. Como ustedes que están en la mesa directiva, por favor, piensen en eso, en toda la comunidad que realmente necesitamos nosotros nuestra escuela. Hay más escuelas. O sea, yo tampoco estoy de acuerdo que se cierre ninguna escuela, pero como mamá, sí me afectaría. Yo tengo 16 años en la Linder. ¿Por qué ahora me va a afectar? Yo trabajo, me voy en el bus, regreso en el bus. ¿Se imaginan todo lo que nos va a afectar a nosotros si nos cierran la escuela? Gracias.
Thank you. Ray, I think we have one last community comment. I want to respect that last one. Ms. Maria Cenidosa.
Hi. I'm actually not going to speak. I think it's important to hear from the people that you're going to affect if you choose to close the school. So I have a student here.
Thank you. Mr. Turner. Bring it back for some last comments.
Mr. Renee, I think her son was gonna speak.
Yeah.
What? Oh, was that what it was? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is my youngest brother. So this is the people you are affecting if you choose to close the school.
I know that my
But you have to start
brothers-
over. They didn't hear you. They cut you
Oh.
off.
I am Antonia Flores, and I do not think that we should close the school because a lot of people that I know goes there. I don't think I would like it if we close the school.
Can you say how would it affect you? And how your brother's one thing?
It would affect me really bad.
Tell them, don't be shy. You have your time. They're gonna respect your time.
I would cry. The school is not.
Por favor, no cierren mi escuela.
I would not like if Linda closed the school.
Oh my God, that's fine.
My brothers and sisters came from the school, and I don't think I would like it if we close the school down.
Please think about other solutions.
Please think about other solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will bring it back to the committee for last comments. Mr. Turner?
It seems to me like the direction that most of us are heading is in the direction of not closing any schools, but making up the budget deficit through some creative repurposing of part of the facilities at some of the schools at least. And we've created a whole variety of ideas on how that might happen. It seems to me that to go to the district Board of Trustees with the idea, but without any firm, shall we say, evidence that any of these ideas for repurposing it can be achieved, is practical, it doesn't really fulfill what they need from us. And so I think the direction we're going to need to do a little more homework on checking out some of these ideas to see whether they're really practical. You know, can some campuses be segmented in some way or another? I know Kirtan's got a large grassy field. Maybe some of that can be repurposed in some way. But just knowing that maybe it can be repurposed in some way doesn't really provide a solution to the Board of Trustees. It just provides an idea. So that's my thoughts, is that to come to closure on this, we really need to get into the practicality of these repurposing ideas. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Sendejas?
I want to thank everybody that spoke right now, and to the little boy. This is hard, guys. It's not easy. I have children in this school as well. So every kid here, and I work in this school as well. I completely understand everybody's pain. You know, I've worked at Lindale. I've worked at a lot of these schools, and I've seen all these programs. I've seen how wonderful they are. This is why I think it's really important that we really focus on solutions. And like I said, I'm willing to do my homework. I've contacted supervisors, and I will continue to do that. And if you guys are willing to have maybe some of them come in and speak on some of the solutions, I think that's something positive we can look forward to, and see how many buildings we can partially repurpose, right? And I'm going to keep saying partially because I think that's where we should all be thinking right now, partial repurpose. And I'm willing to speak to Candango administration and see if we can put more, or the deaf and hearing and blind, and see if we can put some of those institutes into maybe Lindale, right? And other programs that will help our school. I know that this is really difficult for everyone, but I think that finding solutions should be our priority. It should be our focus. And from here on, I'm not going to say closing. I'm not going to say whole repurpose. I'm going to think partial repurpose and try to keep those students and our staff and employers employed, right? I think everybody's going through a lot. We're going through a lot with everything, and our students are excited to come back to school. We shouldn't add any more stress to any family. So I please ask once again to remove all schools from this list. We add no schools right now. And I want to thank you guys for going back to council to reword repurpose to partial. I think that wording is important. When we do contracts, it's really important to have the wording exactly how we want it, because this is what we will be turning in at the end of the day. So I want to thank you guys for going back to council to change that wording. I truly appreciate that. So if you guys are willing, and we can start bringing in solutions, and we can start bringing in people, or I could do my homework and bring you guys a PowerPoint on the solutions and how it can work. But whatever we can do, because I know we're limited by Brown Act. And
yes. So I just want to clarify that is not the task of the group, right? In terms of getting into the weeds and the details, those are things that the board, right, taking the recommendations from the group, are going to task the staff to look into, right? I really don't want us to get too lost in the weeds. I think the big concepts and the ideas, those are the things that the board is going to be able to take away and give direction to the staff in order to look at these concepts and the feasibility of bringing some of these things about. I just don't want us to get ourselves caught up in.
So how will that work if we need, for example, kind of numbers to see, like, for example, this school needs this amount of money to repurpose and stay afloat? How would we know these things, or what we need to bring in to, or are we just going to throw in solutions and see if it works? Or
guys, my recommendation for you to consider on that one would be kind of, Brenda, just what you just talked about a second ago. I think that what you need to do is, if you don't want to name schools, that's fine. That, again, that's your call as a committee. If you want to talk about other options and opportunities for the board to consider and look at as we go forward, I think that at this juncture, it's important for you to be as specific as you can be in saying that we don't want to close schools, but we would like to repurpose. And here are some of the options for repurposing. And then ask the board then, as Renee said, to authorize staff to do the deeper digging on those particular issues. And then we come back and we say, okay, the committee said this, these are some of the options. And again, one of my favorite phrases, options and opportunities. These are some of the options and opportunities that they have put on the table and presented for the board's consideration. And here's how we believe, or the staff believes, that those things might be able to come to fruition, or the outcomes if we tried to make them come to fruition.
okay, so ADA wise, how do we know, for example, I'm just going to throw in any school. I'm going to say Chavez, right, is a certain amount. We know the numbers, right, that they're down ADA. So how much money, how much more do we have to bring in so we can think of programs that will match with each school according to the need and also the community need, right? I don't know if we can get that, or are we just gonna say, for example, Linda, we want to see these 3 programs come into this school?
I think that the thing that I probably would recommend, guys, is, given kind of where you're going with this right now, is it would be to take a look at the schools, the ones that are, again, the most impacted right now as far as enrollment drop is concerned, and have the most open space. And then take a look at those and say, okay, these are the sites that are the hardest hit right now, the ones that are causing the biggest issues for the district from a budgetary standpoint. So we don't know yet how we can make that stagger go away, but here's some of the ideas on a site-by-site basis that we think might be able to be appropriately instituted, and then we can go out and try to figure out, okay, which one of those works. And then you go back then to a lot of the things you've talked about over these last couple of months, which is in each, even though the school district is a large community, each school is its own small community. And within the context of that, there are certain program ideas and certain opportunities for programs that are going to be better received, better managed, better housed at certain school sites. And so you guys, being the folks that are out there in the world, would have a good idea as to what those might be. So let's use Chavez as an example, since we started there just a second ago. So you say, okay, if we were going to repurpose at Chavez, and we have X number of classrooms, let's say, or X number of space that we might have available there, based on what the information we have right now. Here are some of the ideas for program repurposing that we would propose to include at Chavez to try to make that school whole from a financial perspective. And then tailor, as you can, and as you feel best, tailor those ideas to the Chavez community. That's where my thoughts would be on that one, if that's the way the committee were to proceed.
Thank you. That makes it easier to see.
Mr. We have another committee member, Araceli Ortiz.
Mi comentario lo voy a hacer en español. En todas estas semanas que estamos en este comité, yo nunca me he atrevido a hablar porque quería entender un poquito más sobre esto, pero escuchando todo, como dicen, los términos de reutilizaciones, es difícil escuchar esa palabra tocando diferentes puntos emocionales, porque el poner nombres en estas hojas crea más incertidumbre, más estrés, más ansiedad. No importa que tal vez mi escuela no esté en esa lista, pero tal vez la escuela de mi vecina está en esa lista. Y estar en este comité a mí me ha creado muchos conflictos, pero no por eso dejo de estar aquí al pie, poniendo mi opinión o mi presencia. Y cuando escuché a una persona del Lindale que dijo reutilizaciones de nuestras escuelas, que lo rentaran como para fiestas, hace un año o más de un año en Cureton y en George rentaban las canchas de fútbol. Y las personas que usaban esos campos al final del día dejaban botellas de alcohol cuando se iban los equipos de soccer. Creo que reutilización no suena muy bien, porque si nuestras escuelas van a estar abiertas a las demás cosas y las reutilizan diferentes áreas, no van a quedar limpias, porque ya lo miramos cuando rentaron las canchas de soccer, que dejaban ropa, dejaban cosas no agradables para nuestros niños. So, tenemos que tener mucho cuidado en eso y no sentirnos como que si cierran mi escuela, ¿qué voy a hacer? Yo toda mi vida he caminado, tengo más de 15 años viviendo en este vecindario y siempre he llevado a mis hijas caminando porque no manejo. Estoy de acuerdo con las que dicen que no manejan. Pero aquí hay que ser honestos, que yo he contado con muchas amigas que me han ayudado a llevar a mis hijas a la escuela. Entonces, ya no hay niños en nuestra comunidad, no hay babies chiquitos. Los nuevos matrimonios están pensando mucho en tener bebés. ¿Por qué? Porque la vida es bien cara aquí. Es demasiado cara para poder sostener nuestros hijos aquí en el Valle de Silicon. So, esa es la razón porque a veces también ya no hay niños. Entonces, a veces nos cerramos la cabeza y creemos que quieren cerrar las escuelas porque quieren. No, simplemente si vamos con las community liaison, ellas tienen los datos de cuando van a hacer a las casas, van a buscar cuántos niños se van a enrolar el siguiente año, cuántos niños chiquitos tienen en esta casa. Ellas saben exactamente que ya no hay babies para enrolarse en kindergarten o en los demás grados. So, yo creo que debemos de ser conscientes de que no hay bebés chiquitos. No es tanto que las charters están llevando a nuestros niños, no. Simplemente que los nuevos matrimonios ya están pensando mucho en tener bebés, por eso ya no hay babies. Entonces tenemos que pensar muy bien en qué vamos a hacer con nuestras escuelas para no crear más ansiedad y más conflicto. Ya tenemos demasiado. Yo he estado a punto de renunciar a este comité porque ya no aguanto el acoso de unas mamás. Entonces, yo no tengo necesidad de estar aquí. Soy voluntaria, no me están pagando por estar en este comité, pero lo hago por todo lo que la escuela me ha dado a mí, no el distrito, las escuelas, los maestros, todo lo que me han ayudado con mis hijas que han sido aprendices del idioma inglés, que aunque ya no están ahí, siguen apoyándolas. Entonces, como papás tenemos que ver todo eso. Cuánto nos han ayudado y no echarnos la piedrita uno al otro, sino buscar una solución todos juntos como equipo, porque si nos estamos peleando entre nosotros mismos, no vamos a llegar a ningún arreglo y al final de cuentas el tiempo se nos va a acabar. Gracias.
Thank you for your comments. Any last comments from the committee? Okay, thank you. We will not have any additional comments from the community at this time. What I would like to do right now is, Mr. Hand, if you could bring up the calendar. I know that what we had scheduled, and again, we plan these things and we adapt, we adjust as the needs evolve and change, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time, and at the same time ensure that we are engaging in dialogue and coming up with solutions. So right now, what we had scheduled in our calendar was that on April 15th, which is our board meeting, we would present a draft facility repurposing report to the Board of Education, right? I can honestly say I don't think we're there yet. I don't know if there is an update that we can give the board in terms of the work, and I can work with Ms. Abal to share that out with the board in terms of just an update of the work that's been going on and that continues to occur on a weekly basis. We do not have a meeting set, so I want to propose that we select a follow-up meeting where we come back with some very concrete samples. You take a look at the sample report that was shared with you, and that those of you that would like to propose a very solid proposal with ideas to share with the committee that we can help construct into that report, to bring it back at that next meeting so we can have some dialogue, real solid dialogue about what that would look like. We will go back to council, get clarification on some of those questions. And again, forget about the list that's there. That's just a sample draft that's meaningless at this point, right? Go back to the reports that we've shared with you, go back to the data, go back to those schools as Mr. Hand shared that are demonstrating the biggest decline and the most space available, all of those things that you want to consider in terms of location of school, all of those things. And we're going to have some time for you guys to be able to do that between now and our next meeting, right? But I do want us to come back with something more concrete that we can get to the board sooner rather than later, right? Because eventually, if we don't come up with any kind of report to the board, ultimately the board will take action on whatever it is that they feel is necessary in order to continue to move the work.
Yep.
So I want to propose that we hold a meeting on, if we can't do it on the week of the 15th, I would propose that we do it, sticking to our Thursdays, I would propose that we do it on the 22nd. And that means, I know that's a little far off, right? Next week is I'm breaking. I don't want to impose on any of you, knowing that, you have your families and everybody needs a break. The 15th is a board meeting, unless we want to try to squeeze a meeting before that board meeting. I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that right now.
Renee, if I could jump in just for a second. I like the ideas that you're proposing. Obviously, I think we're right on target with that. I like Brenda's idea of having each of the committee members give us some solid, as you said, solid feedback. If you guys want to base that feedback on the report format that we presented tonight, that would be great. If you just want to send us something saying, this is what I think we need to do, that would be great. I would probably suggest, if it's possible, for us to say, let's hear from you guys with your written thoughts sometime between now and the next meeting, so that Renee and myself and Colvera, so that we can gather, and Patricia, we can gather your information. And in the next presentation that we would give to you, it would be specific to the things that you have given to us, so that when we come together the next time, we can really start to go through and say, okay, we've got these 10 ideas, or we've got these 20 ideas, or whatever it might be, and we can just start taking a look at those, talking about each of them with their particular nuances, and then you guys can then start making some really great decisions based on that kind of input from each of the committee members. So that would be my recommendation going forward.
Yes, and the only thing with that is those suggestions, please just forward them to Patricia and myself. Again, going into Brown Act, I don't want a dialogue to get started on any of these suggestions. Right. So if you could just direct those to myself and Patricia, and you can include Mr. Hand in there as well.
I would also recommend that you send those to Natalie, since she is co-chair.
Yeah.
But I agree.
We can forward those
to the whole group. No, it's not for distribution to the whole group. It's just administrative distribution.
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't, and we will be bringing all of your suggestions forward in public format as required under the Brown Act. This is just going to give us an opportunity to collect those thoughts and put them into a cohesive document that's easy for us all to share and review publicly.
And I would, if we are certain that we can have our meeting on the 22nd, I would suggest that we get those proposals by the middle of the week of the 12th, no later than that. Okay, all right. Let me see, Ms. Sendejas.
So you want to reschedule March 10th, right? I mean, what are we doing? We're not in March, we're in April. What was the meeting that you wanted to reschedule that you said that we have a board meeting on the 15th, right?
There's no meeting scheduled right now moving forward other than the board meeting on the 15th. So
Okay, so we don't have anything beyond today.
correct. That's why I want to schedule a meeting on the 22nd
Of April?
of April. And we would submit proposals just to us, right? Just to Patricia, myself, Mr. Han, and we could forward those proposals to Natalie as well, just not to the whole group. And we want those that week of April 12th. So that way we can collect them all, put them together in a presentation format, so we can bring them for the 22nd.
Yeah, can we set like a target date, maybe of April 15th then? Renee, coming back to your idea.
That's fine.
And just so everybody has a real focus. I mean, for me, it always works better if I know I have a due date. You know,
Yeah,
so
if the 15th
April
could be the target date, please.
Of May, right? May 15th is the target,
No,
right?
no,
April 15th.
Oh, April 15th. You want
to submit the proposals, for you guys to submit proposals to us.
Brenda, they don't have to be fleshed out.
No,
in
I just,
great detail. It's just
I want to make sure I
give us
get that
your,
right.
you know, we've heard a lot of ideas. We've heard a lot of great ideas. And we just now need to start to get, as I said in the beginning of this meeting, we just need to start to get our collective arms around those things and be able to siphon them down into their lowest common denominators. And then we can take that information and we can put it into the board report.
Okay, so we have 14 days to do this. And how many options would you want us to give you? The 9th or just 5?
As many as you want to give us. It depends on what you feel. I mean, each of you, because each of you is going to be doing your own specific review and present your own specific ideas. So if you have one idea, that's great. If you have 10 ideas, that's great. So shoot those to us. We'll capture those. We'll put them into a presentation for the meeting on the 22nd, and then we can all review those together. And then you guys can start saying, we like this one, I'm not sure about this one, we like this one, and just kind of go through the list and, you know, do that kind of a review and action.
So can we do, is this okay if we change it, or is this not definite, right? So I know you want the proposals no later than the 15th of April, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way we can have it by the 20th? Or is that too short of a notice?
It's pushing it for us. It's pushing it, and then we can't bring that information together, right? Because we try to get you all that information out to everybody prior to the meeting. So we want to construct it in a way that everybody has an opportunity to review. You know, this is almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It is 2 weeks, actually.
No, okay. Yeah, well, I know, but a lot of us work and we have kids and I'm just trying to be mindful that a lot of people here, I don't know. I want to hear from everybody, so I'll stop talking.
Any other from the group? Does the 22nd work? And I think we will tentatively add the 22nd and then the 29th, just so that we're prepared in case we need a follow-up meeting.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Does that work? Any suggestions regarding the proposals, the date? You know, we're trying to be mindful of your time, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're able to process the information, gather it, put it in a way that we can share it with everybody in a timely manner.
So by the 22nd, you're going to show us in a presentation, right? Us in the committee? When will we get that? If we turn it in on the 14th, will we get it?
We will
Before
share
the
all that
20th?
the 22nd. we would share all that on the 22nd, but we will try to provide that to you at least 2 days prior. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you can get it to us by the 15th, that will give us, because we don't know how potentially it has the potential to be pretty voluminous, pretty big. And so that'll give us time to digest it and put it together in, again, a coherent format so that it's easy. We'll try to put together so it's easiest for you guys to review and make decisions on.
So we're not having a meeting until the 22nd, from right now to the 22nd, right? I think
Unless
we
you
should
guys-
have a meeting between there. I think it's important we have one because I believe everyone's changing their way of thinking. So I think if we are thinking of solutions, we should have at least one more meeting in between there if everyone's okay with it.
I think it would be good just to use the time that we're given by not having a meeting to work on our proposals. Because it's kind of us putting our own thoughts into the work right now. And then on the 22nd, when we come together, we'll be able to kind of process together.
Jocelyn, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I don't really think that there is any availability before the 22nd, since the 15th is a board meeting and next week is spring break for some of you, just saying. And so I just don't know if we could come up with a day that would work for everybody between now and then. I kind of tend to agree with Maria that if we just put our energy into filling out, putting down our ideas and sending it, then we can discuss them at the 22nd meeting, correct? And then we do have an additional date if need be for the 29th.
Okay.
And the good
Any other
news is,
comments
guys,
from the committee?
I'm sorry, Renee, I was just going to say the good news with the schedule, the way Renee's proposed it right now, is that still gives us an opportunity to meet the board's goal of getting them information on the 13th of May.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? Okay, hearing the majority agreeing on that 22nd and the proposal being submitted on the 15th, we'll schedule that. We'll send you that information next week sometime. So tentatively put it in your calendar for the 22nd at 5 p.m. and then that deadline of the 15th for your proposal. Okay?
Great.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate this. Thank you for your patience. I know we ran over time. You guys are excellent. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you, community, for being here with us. I know this isn't easy, and we truly appreciate
Renee,
all
hold
your
on.
comments and suggestions.
Renee,
Real quick,
hold on.
can you provide this in Spanish for Araceli and the rest of the committee members? I know that it's in English, but I really want to make sure because I know they haven't been getting a lot of this stuff in Spanish. So can you please make sure that it's translated for them in Spanish?
The presentation?
No, where we're writing our proposals.
The report. The
Are we
report,
using
Brenda?
that template that you're giving us?
Yeah,
or
the
are we
report
just
template.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I just want to say real fast, good meeting tonight. You came together tonight, and we appreciate that. This is what we needed to have happen tonight, and I think we're on a good path right now. So thank you very much for your great work.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hand and Ms. Patricia. If we could meet just for scheduling purposes afterwards, I will send you a link. Thank you.
Okay, so we're leaving this meeting. You're going to send us another link?
Yes, I will. Thank
Okay.
you, guys. Have
All
a
right, thanks, Renee.
great weekend. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Night, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Gracias, Carlos.